This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, I feel whole again. Why? Well, because after being away from the set for 2 whole weeks, my buddy is back, Kenny B. Not even going to ask you if you missed me because I know the answer to that. Anywho, Mr. B, if you will, kindly do the honors, please.
I will. Straight ahead on the program, with the cost of fertilizer already through the roof, is there a way for row crop farmers to use less of it? Well, there is, and it's along the same lines of how cover crops are used. Also on the program, making the world's sweetest onion sweeter than ever. How UGA researchers and Vidalia growers are working together in hopes of creating a more consistent flavor profile. Plus,
well, hey everybody, Ranger Nick. Coming up a little bit later, you know, if you've taken one of these COVID rapid tests and then waited to find out the results and hoping that it's good, I'm going to introduce you to a scientist who's doing something similar to study diseases in trees and determine whether that fungi in that tree could spread throughout a forest. That and a whole lot more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
While they might not get the same attention as cash crops, cover crops can be equally as important to a farmer's bottom line. As Damon Jones reports, there's a new variety that could significantly reduce the grower's input costs, as well as reduce the need for fertilizer, which also means more money in your wallet.
It's officially the off-season for Georgia's staple row crops like corn, cotton, and peanuts. However, there is still plenty of work to be done in the fields, as growers are encouraged to plant cover crops in order to both maintain the soil quality and manage weeds until planting season rolls around.
So a big benefit that we're seeing out here actually is that we're reducing the amount of weed seeds that actually germinate. And so what happens is we're producing all this biomass, and we're seeing, you know, I would say probably about 75% reduction in the number of actual plants that are germinating compared to, say, a bare ground treatment where there's no cover crops at all.
So erosion's a big thing, especially in a lot of places. We have highly erodible soils here in Georgia. And so keeping the ground cover, keeping that soil from disappearing. And we've also noticed that we have a slight increase numerically from increased carbon. And we've got some ongoing research looking into organic matter increases as affected by these cover crops. But one of the things with cover crops, it does take time to see these benefits. You're not going to plant the cover crop and see it happen tomorrow.
While these cover crops, typically cereal rye and crimson clover being the most common, are planted opposite the cash crops during the fall and winter, researchers are working on a living mulch that is grown in tandem with the other row crops. And one of the benefits they've seen should be very interesting to the grower, especially considering the high cost of fertilizer.
What the living mulch is you actually plant it and it grows at the same time as the cash crop. And so the living mulch that we selected is a Durana white clover. And so it creates a decent amount of biomass, not what you would see with cereal rye, but it also fixes its own nitrogen. And so with commodity prices the way they are and the cost of inputs going up, you know, being able to basically grow your own nitrogen is a huge benefit.
However, living mulch isn't ideal for every grower, as there is a big investment into both time and water needed for it to succeed.
You need to have the right system setups. It's not for everybody. Moisture, so I also have soil moisture probes, as you can see with these boxes out behind here. So we're actually measuring soil moisture 365 days a year at 10 and 30 centimeters. And so what we're doing is we're trying to keep an eye on what's the soil moisture and how it's affected by the different cover crops, just to kind of get a baseline of what's going on out here. So soil moisture is an important thing to aspect when you're trying to grow, because think about it, you have living mulch growing year round, you have 2 plants, you have higher moisture requirements.
So while cover crops might often be overlooked, it's just another way farmers can improve their bottom line.
You know, my approach to cover crops is that it's another tool in the toolbox. It really is, and you know, that's where we're going to have to continue to move with weed science, weed management. It's going to be all about utilizing as many tools in that toolbox as we can.
Reporting from Oconee County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, another impressive show of strength for Georgia Farm Bureau recently, as nearly 500 members made the trip to Atlanta for the annual GFB Day at the Capitol, an event that enables members to meet face-to-face with state officials and voice their concerns about issues affecting them and their operations back home.
So we try to help facilitate those conversations and meetings. It's important for the organization, but it's also just important for the legislators to be able to hear from real people in their district during session when they get tied up at the Capitol. They appreciate hearing the feedback on different pieces of legislation and policies that they're considering and how it'll impact the folks back home.
Well, due to demand, or in this case, the lack of, the sheep industry in Georgia, and really the U.S. as a whole, historically has not been great. There is, however, one sheep farmer in West Georgia that says the last few years have proven otherwise, as his farm has seen exponential growth since its inception. John Holcomb reports from Troup County on Hunt Road, Katahdin Sheep Farm.
Meet Raymond Smith, a sheep farmer who started tending sheep a few years back with his wife on their family farm. In the beginning, they started out with just 10 ewes and a ram, but as you can tell, have really expanded their flock over the years. As Smith will tell you though, it has taken a lot of hard work getting to where they are now.
We had a hard time finding what we were looking for, the good animals, the genetics or whatever. We wanted to stay with the hair sheep because they are meat animals. We were fortunate enough to get into real good genetics. We worked hard at it, and it took a lot of hard work. We belong to the Katahdin Association, and we have done very well.
Much like any other livestock producer, since their start in the sheep business, they have been working to improve the genetics of their flock to help them grow the healthiest and most productive animals that they can.
This is a meat animal, so the whole idea of the meat sheep, it's like cattle or anything else. You want them to hit the ground, you want them to grow fast, you want to get them into market so you can make money. We strive to get we'll average a little over 3/4 of a pound a day growth in the first 90 days. Sometimes we have some more performers other than that, and people say, you're crazy. Well, we do things so that we can get that, and that's how we market our animals, is their growth factor and their meatiness.
Historically here in the U.S., the demand for lamb meat has remained low, but according to Smith, that has changed in the last few years.
Our palates change over time. We have people moving into this country from Europe and other places, and this is a main staple. And I always tell everybody, I says the number one meat in the world today is goat. 64% of all the meat produced in the world today is goat, and lamb falls in pretty much behind it. Hair sheep have a very good taste. People that eat goat love lamb. A lot of people really, it's a very good meat. It is a high-end cut, and it is desired by all kinds of people.
In fact, according to Smith, lamb has become such a popular meat, and the genetics that they have on their farm are so desired, they have a hard time keeping up with demand.
We have calls almost every day, but during the week we'll have an average of 5 calls a week looking for sheep. We sold 185, I marketed 185 sheep last year, and I'm still getting calls. Now we will start again. We have sold sheep, and we have filled up everything. We can't take any more orders because after we had our show in August, we almost sold out on the way home.
Reporting in LaGrange for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, everybody, range your neck. You know, if you've got a tree on your property that you think might be sick, I'm going to introduce you to a scientist that studies sick trees on the other side of the break.
I'm Daniel Jackson. I am the lab manager of the crop quality section of the UGA Ag and Environmental Services Labs. Today we're here harvesting Vidalia onions as part of a research project on a Vidalia onion grower's farm. And the purpose of this study is to identify how soil characteristics across a single Vidalia onion field influence both yield and flavor profile of Vidalia onions.
Everybody that knows about the famous Vidalia sweet onion knows that the flavor and the sweetness is the utmost importance for our industry. To have a standard and to keep that standard so it can be consistent across the store shelves.
What we're doing is we're mapping several fields across the industry to look at their depth to clay and soil type and other soil characteristics. And we're following up in season by pulling plant samples and bulb samples and flavor samples for the onions.
And the ultimate goal here is we want to be able to provide recommendations as the University of Georgia to the growers in our area on how to make sure that they have a consistently sweet onion.
You know, this may be an aspect we could help farmers pick the right fields to grow onions in, learn how to fertilize them to make them sweeter or make them the best that they can be. So we're trying to really get out there in different areas of the Vidalia onion growing region and look not just at one field, but different soil types, different growers, different growing methods to try to get the true picture of how sulfur and clay and onion flavor is all tied together.
We're always trying to get better. We want to be better. And so we want every single plant, all 85,000 of them per acre, to be as sweet as it can possibly be. And we're just trying to see where we need to fit at, where we need to be at, so that we can talk to the breeders of these varieties and let them know, hey, this is what our consumer wants, this is what they demand, and this is what we want to give them.
Well, the weather's warming up, and it's a beautiful time of year to maybe get outside, take a look around your land a little bit, and inspect some of those trees you might have up close. And I want to introduce you to somebody that spends some time looking at trees up close and determining whether they're sick or not. And that's Dr. Katerina Villery. Good to see you out here,
Hi, Nick.
Doc.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm so glad you're with us because Dr. Villery is a forest pathologist for the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. And Doc, I got to ask, for the folks at home wondering, what in the world does that mean? What does a forest pathologist do? What do you do?
So as a forest pathologist, I study diseases of trees. So I look at their general health, and then I try, if they're sick, to determine what's making them sick and identify the disease agent. It could be a fungus, it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria. I try to identify what's making the plant sick.
And you are doing that not just with your eyes, just looking at the tree. Maybe you are, but what are some ways that you're studying that sickness, and why should we care about a tree being sick?
So yeah, you start with the eyes. That's the first thing that you do. You look for symptoms, you look for things that are off from the normal behavior of the plant. If a plant used to have a color of leaves and have a different one, that's a sign that something is going wrong. But that's usually not enough. It's very hard to determine a disease just by looking at a tree. And so what we do, it's doing DNA analysis. So we extract the DNA of the plants and we run some tests to see what's inside this plant, what organism.
And talk about interesting, you know, most folks might not realize that there is DNA in a tree that you can extract. And that's what I want to do next. I want to visit and talk about how you extract that DNA and what you're looking for in that to make a conclusion about whether a tree is sick or not and then what to do about it. So let's head on over there next. Well, me and sharp objects. I can already see these little twigs shaking right here. And Colton Meineke is sitting with me. He's a research professional with the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. So nicely to wear that today. Colton, walk us through, how are we going to extract DNA from these little pieces of wood so that we can determine whether it is diseased or not?
Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a symptomatic tree sample here. It's showing a little bit of discoloration under the bark, so we're going to collect some of these pieces of bark, and we're going to pull all the DNA out of it, the DNA of the plant and maybe the DNA of the disease-causing organism. So we took those pieces of wood and we put them in this extraction buffer with some steel beads, and we shook that up to release all the DNA from that sample.
In that solution, it comes
from that
out.
solution,
okay.
right?
All right.
And so, Nick, what we'll have you do is we'll have you take your filter paper dipstick, and this is just a tool that we can use to soak up a little bit of DNA without any of the other contaminants.
Okay, so I'm going to dip it in like this.
So you'll dip it in there like that.
And then what?
And that should be good.
Okay.
You'll take it out of there.
Put the lid back on.
Put the lid back on.
Wow.
And then you can take this wash buffer tube.
Okay, WB, wash buffer, okay.
And you'll just
put it in?
dip it in there a couple times, and that's going to wash away everything except for the DNA, because we want to hold on to that.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is you'll take that and you'll put it right in this well here.
Yes, sir.
And what we have here is our reaction mixture. And
Dip
so
it.
that is going to take the DNA of the disease-causing organism, if it's there, and it's going to make a bunch of copies until we can detect it.
Interesting. And then it goes into this machine right here, which is
Right.
over on this side. And this is the same kind of machine that we could use to determine the results of a COVID test?
Exactly, and it just works on the principle that you take a very small number of the disease-causing organism's DNA and you make a bunch of copies so that it's easy to tell if it's there.
Interesting. So what I want to do is I want to put it in here for the purpose of time. We're going to let some time go by, about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to talk about the results. So let's check them out next. All right, Doc, 20 minutes have gone by. Test results are in. We're looking at a curvy line. What's the result?
Well, that means that the tree is actually sick. It's positive. The test came out as positive. That curvy line means positive. It means that the twig that we were testing, it's infected with laurel wilt.
Wow.
That's an invasive species that we have here in Georgia, unfortunately. And in this case, what we will have to do is to cut the tree.
Wow, and that's pretty much the only thing that can be done is removal.
For this disease, yes, because we really want to avoid for the disease to spread to surrounding trees.
And look at that proactive approach that you're taking, is looking at this, testing, and then making a management decision. When you mention invasives, I know the folks at home maybe heard of some other invasives. What's some other invasive diseases we need to be concerned about?
Well, we had in the past some pretty nasty one. Chestnut blight, for instance, or Dutch elm disease are the most famous one.
Right.
And now we're past the problem with those.
Which is a good thing, right? And thank goodness for folks like you as a forest pathologist doing this. And I tell you what, I hope you've learned a lot about this today. I hope that while you're online, maybe taking a look at where your local county extension agent might be to answer more questions about this. While they're online, they can look up some things that are going on the Farm Monitor Facebook page. Maybe you can look up the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. Doc, I'm so glad you're with us today. For the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you right back here again, this time next month. See ya.
Well, don't forget, if you missed any part of Ranger Nick's segment or other features on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, The Farm Monitor. Plenty of content and a variety of subjects to choose from. Best of all, archives go all the way back to 2009. And while you're there, keep clicking and like the Farm Monitor Facebook page. Also, if you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, send us a message either on Facebook or the address that is on your screen, news@farm-monitor.com. Well, it's another testament to how agriculture can bring an entire city together. After the break, why organizers of this Alpharetta farm were surprised by the outpouring of support.
If you didn't know about it, or hear about it, chances are you'd never know it was there. Tucked away just a stone's throw from Rucker Road, the farm at Old Rucker Park now occupies what was once a family-owned tree farm. It all began in 2018 with a vision to make the farm whole again.
It all started actually with a beautiful, generous donation from Whole Foods Market to receive a farm. And we like to kind of jokingly say that we received a farm in a box. Whole Foods Market had been operating an educational farm nearby, and when they were done doing that, they offered to donate all of the materials, all of the equipment, the soil, the greenhouse, everything to the city of Alpharetta. And so the city received that generous gift, and the community agriculture program was born.
By definition, community is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. But neither Amanda nor anyone else involved with the project were prepared for the type of fellowship they encountered once the word went out about the need for volunteers to get the farm up and running.
When we started the Grow a Row program, which is a program where we're inviting the community to help us grow food for our local food bank at North Fulton Community Charities. We knew that we wouldn't be able to manage it ourselves. To grow and to expand our growing space by 50%, we knew that with the current staffing that we have, there's no way that we would be able to manage that. People are busy, and who does want to come out? Who is willing to come out and spend 5 hours, 10 hours a week tending a row of crops to give to people that they don't know? We have 14 rows, and we thought maybe we can get 3 people to take each row. Our expectations were that we might get a half a dozen people involved in the program. And when we put it out there, we had 60 people apply to join the Grow a Row program, and we were just overwhelmed.
It gives you a sense of accomplishment, but doing something for the better good, because you're doing something that people really truly have taken to heart and believe in. So, and this is, it's more than, you know, working for a company and doing credit card processing or something like that. There's a little bit more to this because it's kind of to basic needs, which is food. So it was I love seeing it. It's very rewarding.
However, providing resources to the local food bank is only a small portion of what the farm at Old Rucker Park has to offer. Additionally, area residents can rent out their own garden plot to grow food for themselves. The farm also serves as an outdoor classroom to Cambridge High School, the only FFA chapter in North Fulton County. And for Emily Dillard, Community Ag Coordinator for the City of Alpharetta, the farm is a dream come true and what she calls a hidden gem. Quite possibly the best kept secret in all of Alpharetta.
Once you get here, it just opens up into like this magical playground. There's everything. I mean, for kids, for older people, everyone in between. So what you see today is, I mean, complete night and day. Yeah, when we got here, I don't know if Amanda mentioned, but weeds and grass were up to our knees. I mean, I remember wearing like the big long muck boots. So your feet, you didn't know what you were stepping on. So we've come such a long way, and I credit our community for that, because Amanda and I could not have done what you see here today without, you know, the support from the city and from our community, for sure.
3 years ago, I couldn't have imagined in my happiest dream that we would be here today. So I don't really know where we'll be in 3 years. I really like to have the guidance of the community, where we're going to go, what are they interested in? Do we need more beehives? Do we need a larger greenhouse to do more propagation in? What is that? Do we need a larger flower garden? I'm really hoping that the community can tell us, and I trust that the community will tell us what we should do here for the next 3 years, because they've really been our compass for these first 3 years, and they've done a great job.
Yeah, great job by everyone involved. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe.